All right, how do we start it off? How do we start it off?
Start talking about just their birth experience.
Oh, great. Here comes. So this video is about Kai's birth. 1 year ago today. Ouch, he was born. But you're a year old today. It's November 15th, 2022. And 1 year ago today, Kai was born. So Isaiah and I are do a little birth video talking about how Kai was born. And we're just gonna get started. Okay, so on that Saturday, okay, we're gonna start. Okay, so that this video might have some TMI, so if you don't want to hear stuff, don't watch this. So that Friday, which was, let's see, 15, 14, 13, 12th. So I think it was the 12th of November. I'm pretty sure that's the day that my water had broke, but I didn't know it had broke. I went to get a haircut and I felt like I was like leaking, but I honestly just thought like I was like slightly peeing my pants. So I kept using the bathroom like all day, and I was just like over and over again. And I remember Isaiah even said like, "You're going to the bathroom again?" I'm like, "Yes, just number one." So, and then I remember when I got my hair cut, I told the woman who cut my hair like about it, because she was recently postpartum, and she was like, "Oh yeah, that happens." So I was just like, "Oh, okay, it happens." And then I looked it up in the pregnancy app and everything, and a lot of people had experienced it. So I was just like, great, I have 6 more weeks of this. Lovely. He's evicted. Then the following day, which was Saturday, we had photo shoot.
You filming me?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my turn?
Yeah. So Saturday.
We had a photo shoot, and I had to get a shirt for the photo shoot, which is this shirt. So I went to Walmart, didn't find anything, so I had to go to Target. When I was leaving Target, went to Target, didn't find anything, so I had to get it at Walmart. But when I was leaving Target, someone backed into me, and then I had to go to get all his information, then go to Walmart, find a shirt, and then I came home.
Yeah, so there was a little contest type of thing on Facebook for the Arizona Sonoran Desert Museum. And it was like, we're looking for models of families. Like, it could be families with babies, it could be couples. But we're looking for, I think they said like 2 or 3 families to be models to use for advertising. And you would go to the Arizona Sonoran Desert Museum for the day. They would take pictures of you just like walking around, all this stuff. So you know me, I win everything. So I had posted a photo of Isaiah and I from our wedding day, and they emailed me and they're like, yeah, we want to choose you guys. So that's where we were going. So that Saturday, like I got super ready. Like I wore makeup and everything. I hadn't worn makeup in a really long time. I still don't really wear makeup, but I'd put on makeup. I'd like put on some glue on nails, did my hair. Isaiah and I got all dressed up, dolled up. And that day I had told him like what was going on, and then I don't remember exactly what I told you. What did I tell you? Like I had lower back pain?
Yeah. Lower back.
Yeah, so I was like, "Oh, my back hurts." And he's like, "Your back hurts." And I was like, "Well, just like a dull pain." And he was like, "Is it in your lower back?" I was like, "Yeah, why?" And he's like, "What else are you feeling?" And then like there was a few other things, and I told him, and he was like, "Okay, well, we need to call the midwives." And I was like, "I'm not gonna call the midwives." He's like, "That's on your list," because we had a list of like premature labor or like early labor signs to look out for, and went to call the midwives so you can go to triage at TMC Hospital. And I was like, "It's not on the list." He's like, "Yes, it is. I've been reading it." And I was just like, "Sure, you've been reading it. You haven't been reading it." So sure enough, he showed me it was on there, and I was like, "Meh." So I called anyways, and so I called El Rio Health Center and told them like, "Oh, I need to speak to the midwives. Like, what's going on?" So I told them, and they're like, "Okay." So midwife on call will give you a call back. So it was Saturday, so they were closed, but there's always like a midwife on call. So they're like, she'll give you a call back. I was like, "Okay, great." And that was at like, I don't know, 9 or 10 in the morning, and then oh no, it must have been earlier than that, because I think we had to check in at the Sonoran Desert Museum like at like 1. So Isaiah went to go run those errands to buy a shirt, And he kept texting me, and he's like, have you heard from Rio? Have you heard from the midwives? And I was like, no, they haven't called me. And they said it was only going to take 15 to 30 minutes. And then it had been 15 minutes. It had been 30 minutes. It had been an hour. Then I think it had been like 2 hours. So in my mind, I was like, well, if it was something, they would have already called by now. So they didn't call. And I was just like, okay. So then we were finally headed to the Desert Museum. And things were already going like rough that day because like Isaiah couldn't find a t-shirt. He had looked several places. And then not only that, but then, you know, he got backed into, and then that was a big old issue because it was a rental car and it wasn't even in that guy's name. And it was just like a big old ordeal. And so it was just like, oh, like everything's not going right. And then like hormones, like I didn't like how I looked that day. And it was just like, oh God, this is so annoying. And Isaiah kept saying like, you should call them back. I'm like, no, I'm not going to call them back. So then, right as we're literally about to leave to go to the Arizona Sonoran Desert Museum, I get a phone call and it says El Rio, and I was like, okay. So I'm talking to the woman. I think her name is Janice. And she's like, hi, I'm so sorry. It's been crazy over here at TMC. There's been like so many people checking in. But can you talk to me about what's going on? And I was like, oh, okay, well, I feel like I've been like leaking. But I looked it up online. I'm pretty sure like it's just like urine maybe. Then I have some like dull lower back pain. I was like trying to, I guess now I look back, like I think I was trying to like minimize things. So I'm like, oh, it's fine. Here, babe. And I was like, oh, like I feel fine though. And she was like, okay. And she's like, so what are you doing right now? Do you think you can come by? And I was like, to TMC? She's like, yeah, do you think you can come to TMC just to get checked out? I really think you need to get checked out at the triage. And I was like, are you serious? And I felt like I was going to like cry. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, well, actually, we're going to take photos. And she's like, because at first she was like, is it like an issue with transportation? Because we can figure that out. And I was like, no. And then I didn't want to lie. So I was like, well, we're going to go take photos right now. And she's like, yeah, I think you really need to come in. I was like, oh my God. So I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll be there soon. So then I was texting, I think her name is Kat. I was texting Kat from the Desert Museum. And I was like, hey. So, and she knew I was pregnant. So I was like, hey, so just like a few things today. The midwife said I should go get checked in. But if it doesn't take long, like, can we go to take the photos still? And she's like, oh yeah, we'll be here all day. Like, we have 2 other families, like, but we would love to have you guys. So please just keep me updated. I was like, okay. So then we go to TMC and I'm driving us, we're on our way. And I was so annoyed because I was just thinking in my head, like, this is such a waste of time. Like, I know we're going to get there and they're going to be like, lady, you've been pissing yourself. And I was just like, this is so annoying. And I think Isaiah was more like, better safe than sorry. I think he was worried. So we're going to TMC. We turn onto Grant, which is where TMC is. And right when we turn onto Grant, like, I just got this feeling in my stomach. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get admitted. Watch. I didn't think I was like in labor, but I was like, oh, I'm going to get admitted. Because I had been following this baby app where people were in the hospital on bed rest for like 5 weeks. So that was my thought, was like, oh my God, watch, I'm going to be admitted or something. I didn't think 5 weeks, but I thought they're going to hold me for a few days. Like, this is so annoying. Like, I'm going to miss the photo shoot and then I have work on Monday. Like, oh, this is so annoying. So then we get there, get checked in. It was like quick. And then
it wasn't quick.
Well,
it's the security guard.
Well, security guard gave us some issues. He was like, who are you here to see? And I guess I explained it wrong. So he thought we were going to visit someone. He's like, you're not in the system. And then the lady at registration was like, here, Papa. Here, baby. Here. So the lady at the registration was like, oh, I see what's happening. Like, you're here to check in. And I was like, yeah. So long story short, we go to check in. A nurse takes me back there and she's like, yeah, the midwife will come back when she's ready. And we had already taken a tour of TMC like 2 weeks prior to that, 2 or 3 weeks prior to that. So I told Isaiah, I was like, just go to the waiting area that they showed us. And he was like, are you sure? I was like, yes, there's no point in you coming over here. Because I really thought they were going to say like, no lady, you just been peeing yourself. So I went into the room, told him just go to the waiting room, which is like a few doors down. I go in there, she's like, okay, go ahead and get undressed. Like from the waist down or whatever, lay down. she hooks me up and everything, and I like tell her right away, like, please don't tell me the sex of the baby. And she's like, oh, don't worry, like, we'll only do an ultrasound like at the end. And I don't really know how to read them. I just need to see like there's a heartbeat and everything. And I was like, okay. So I told her what's happening, and she was like, you don't want your husband in here? I was like, no, because I know it'll be quick. And she's like, okay. And she's like, yeah, we're just going to do a test. I'm going to put a speculum in you, and we're just going to see if your water broke, if it will, like, it'll tell me, like, it'll be a quick process. And she's like, but majority of the time, people don't break their water. Like, their water doesn't break like it does in the movies. So, like, that's probably not what happened. I was like, yeah, I figure. That's why I told them just go to the waiting room. So she, like, inserts it. Literally, like, less than a second. She takes it back out, and I was like, dang, that was fast. She's like, yeah, so remember I said, like, majority of the time, people's water doesn't actually break. Like, there's a slim chance. Well, like, you're that slim chance. And I was like, wait, what? And I was like, okay. And she's like, I don't remember what she said, but she, like, it wasn't clear. So I was like, so did my water break? And she's like, yep. And she just was, like, moving right along. So I was like, wait, what? I'm like, so my water broke? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, I'm just going to do another test. And I was like, okay, to see if it broke. And she's like, well, no, I know it did, because once I answered it, like, liquid came out right away, so that wouldn't be urine. I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, yeah, I'm just going to put it on this little slide in this machine. It's going to dry it real quickly. And if it crystallizes, that tells me that it's fluid. Amniotic fluid. There you go. I couldn't think of the word. Amniotic fluid. And she's like, but it's super quick. She's like, I've been doing this for however many years, and I can tell just by looking at this, like, that's what it is. I was like, oh, okay. And, like, she was just moving, like, right along. Like, she was moving around the room, like, super fast. Like, not in a panic, but, like, it was just routine for her. So she was just putting it in the machine. She was, like, already putting, like, bracelets on me and everything. And she's like, okay, let me go get this. And I was like, wait, like, what? And so I was like, let me text my husband. And she's like, yeah, you might want to get him in here. And I was like, was everything okay? And she's like, yeah, everything's fine. But, yeah, you might want to get him in here. And I was like, okay. So then I text Isaiah, and I was like, do you remember what I told you?
My water broke or something.
I was like, it was just like simple. I was like, my water broke. And he was like, what? What do you mean your water broke? And I was like, my water broke. And he's like, from the and I was like, they did a test. And he's like, from the test? I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, and I was like, do you mean did my water break from the test? He's like, yes. Did the test make your water break? I was like, no, my water was already broken. They did a test to, like, verify it. He's like, so what is, and everything was, this is how I imagine him saying it. He was like, so what does this mean? Like, what do we do? Just, like, in a panic. Like, I could just tell, like, I could only imagine, like, the anxiety. When I got those texts, like, I just immediately thought of, like, the movie Inside Out and, like, all the emotions in the head. And I just thought of, like, anxiety running around, like, oh my God, like, or I thought of, like, The Office when he's like, what's the procedure? That's what I thought of, like, what do we do now? And I was just, I don't know why, but I was just like, I feel like cool, calm, and collected the whole time. Like, obviously later on I was in a lot of pain, but I was just like, I don't know, like, we'll figure this out. So I was like, just come to the room. And he's like, okay. Meanwhile, while all of this is happening, he was in the waiting room, like, messing with the little machine, like, checking, like, his...
Checked my blood oxygen level, my pulse, everything checked out good. Until I took it off, and then it gave me an alarm. I was watching Guys Grocery Games. They're cooking with canned chestnuts, I think. Yeah, and then she texted me to go in there.
So he went in there, and the lady came back, and she did, like, I think that's when she did the ultrasound and everything. She's like, oh, yeah. She's like, I can't read these, don't worry. But, yeah, like, the heartbeat, everything sounds good. So, we're going to get you all checked in. Like, let's get an IV going. And, like, right away, we were like, okay, why do we need an IV? Why do we need this? What are the pros and cons? And then finally, like, seemed like forever later, the midwife came in, and she was like, hey, okay, yeah, so we're going to get you admitted. And I don't remember if it was her or the nurse, but one of them were like, so, yeah, you're going to be admitted. And I was like, oh, well, we're going to go take pictures. And they're like, okay, yeah, not anymore. And I was like, well, how long am I going to be here for? Because that's when I thought, like, ooh, I'm going to be on bed rest. Like, I'm going to be here for, like, 5 weeks. Like, what am I supposed to do? And they're like, yeah, you're not leaving the hospital until you have this baby. And I was like, oh, my gosh. And then she was like, yeah, it'll probably be, like, in a few days. And I was like, wait, what? Like, in a few days? Stop me if I'm getting anything wrong.
No.
So I was just like, what the heck? Like, this is crazy. And then I think we called your parents first.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Isaiah's like, can we call my parents? I was like, yeah, that's fine. So he called them on Snapchat so we could do a video call. And like obviously like I was in my hospital gown laying in bed and he was next to me. So he called and I don't remember if they both answered or one of them answered but they were both on camera. And so he was like, "Hi." And right away his mom saw and she was like, "Hey." And she was like, "Oh my God."
So what's going on? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, she was just like, "What?" Like as if we were in trouble. And she's like, "What are you doing?" Because she could tell we were in the hospital. I don't really remember that call.
No, yeah, she just asked what we were doing. Sorry, I was looking for the text messages. I screenshotted them, but I must have transferred them off. She just asked what we were doing, how it was, and then we told her what was happening and told her everything that was going on, and she just said to keep them updated pretty much.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh my God, like this is so crazy. Oh my God, oh my God." But we just like, if I remember, I just try to reassure them, like, "Yeah, but they said everything's okay. Like, I don't know." So then we called my parents. We just called them on the phone, and they answered right away. And I was like, it was both my parents. They're like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And I was like, and my dad had been telling me, texting me all the time, like, "I just want the baby to be here. I want to meet them already. I just want to meet them." So I was like, "Remember how Dad wants the baby to be born so bad? Well, guess what? They're coming." And they're like, "Wait, what?" And so we told them like, "Oh yeah, my I guess my water broke. We're at the hospital now, so they're gonna admit me. We're just waiting. We're in triage." Just gave them like a quick rundown, and they're like, "Oh my God, well, keep us updated." And who can we tell? And I was like, not that it was like a secret, but I just didn't want to be bombarded with stuff. So I was like, please don't tell anyone. Like you could tell Becca, or you could tell like just tell Becca, but like I just don't want anyone to know yet, because I was like, I don't want like all that out yet. So they're like, "Okay." And then I remember my dad texted me and he was like, "I'm so sorry that I said that." Like, I'm like, "Dad, you have nothing, like, you don't control the universe. It's fine. It's okay." So then they were like, "Okay, we're just going to wait to get you a room. And well, we just need to do your ID." Oh, and they were like, "Okay, we need to give you steroids for the baby for their lungs, since the baby's going to be born premature. Because full term is 37 weeks, and at that point was like 34 and 4, I think. 34 weeks and 4 days. So they're like, "We need to give you 2 shots. You'll get one now, one like in 12 hours or 10 hours or something." Yeah, it's a little boy. So they gave me 1 shot, I think, while Isaiah was there, in my thigh or my booty or something.
Your thigh.
My thigh. And then they're like, "Yeah, we just need to give you an IV, and then we'll transfer you to a room." So then Isaiah was like, "Okay, well, what do you need me to do?" Luckily, especially since I worked from home most of the time, like I had already packed my hospital bag and I had a list, like well-written list of everything I wanted to bring with us. So he's like, "What do you want me to do?" And I was like, "I guess if you want to go home, you can go home and like get my bag, and I'll just text you stuff that I think of, text you where to look for stuff." Isaiah was a freaking app, like literally hashtag husband goals, hashtag partner goals, like just the best ever in general, but especially when I was in the hospital, like I just
She's gonna cry.
I just
God
like,
bless.
a new side of Isaiah that just like made me fall in love even more. So I was just like, he's like, "Are you sure you want me to go?" And I was like, "Yeah," because they're just gonna take me to a room, like. And I remember like that nurse was like, "Oh yeah, just go. Like nothing's gonna happen now. Like she's far from having this baby anytime soon." And so I was like, "Yeah, just go. I'll be totally fine." He's like, "Okay." So I think like he took my clothes that I was wearing. I think, yeah, he took my clothes and my shoes and everything, because I remember when the 2 nurses that were in my room came to get me, they're like, "Where are your clothes?" I was like, "Oh, my husband already took them. He'll be coming back. He went to get my hospital bag." And they're like, "Oh, okay." So he transferred me rooms. I told him where to go. He went home and like got everything. I don't know what was running through your mind.
Oh, that's my cue. Yeah, I don't know. It was just go time, I guess.
We were definitely not prepared for that. We thought we still had like 5 weeks. One big thing was, I remember when we left the house, like we left in a hurry for the pictures, but like I remember, well, Isaiah and I we at the time like took turns washing the dishes. I remember we had a sink full of dishes, like sink, counter, like I just remember the house being like in disarray. And so like that was one thing that was running through my mind, was like, "Oh my God, like we're gonna get home with a new baby and there's gonna be like so many dishes to do, like It's just not what I imagined would happen when we had a baby. Like I thought, like I'd have like a freezer full of meals ready. The house would be spotless. Like I feel like I had just barely started, or not even really started like nesting yet. So I was like, oh my god, I didn't even like deep clean. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. But like, what are you gonna do now? Like, I can't go back into time. So I was just trying to be optimistic, per usual, and just be like, okay, well, what will happen? Like, what will be will be. And so just gotta trust the process and just go forward. So they took me to my room, got the IV going.
But I was still at the house. You mentioned when I started going back.
Well, yeah.
Or
So I
what's
was
in the meantime.
no. So yeah. So I was in my room waiting for you. You went back to the house. Got my stuff. What else?
Oh, I thought you were gonna talk about it in the meantime. Nothing. So yeah, I was just worried to make sure everything was gonna go well. I really didn't want her to like. I wanted it to go how she wanted to go, have it go. So yeah, I was making sure I got everything. Making sure the cats had food and water and stuff, and it was already starting to get cold. And then yeah, trying to figure out what I wanted to bring back for dinner. And I brought back, I think Sonic. We had Sonic. I had the popcorn chicken with some barbecue sauce, and I forgot what she had.
I had a breakfast toaster sandwich.
Oh yeah,
with sausage.
So I got picked up Sonic, and then yeah, got all her stuff, her laundry list of things. Quite a long list.
And I remember when he like, in general, Isaiah is just amazing. But I remember he was like, well, we probably need to get dinner. Like, what do you want to eat? Like, I'll get whatever you want. Like, just tell me where to go. And per usual, I was like, I don't care. Go wherever. But, like, even though I say I don't care, like, I do care. I just don't know. So I was like, I don't care wherever. And so he was like, wherever you want me to go. And he gave me a big old list. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. So when he got there, he had to make, like, several trips to the room because it was a lot of stuff. And I remember when we toured TMC, like, the one they showed us was a very big room. We did not have a very big room, but it wasn't like tiny. But
I thought it was nice.
Yeah, it was a nice room, but like it wasn't as big as the one they showed us. Like the one they showed us had like a whirlpool tub in it, and that one didn't have it. So I guess it was probably the same, just didn't have that. So yeah, and then before he got there, yeah, they came and gave me my IV and everything. Were just like asking me questions. And yeah, what else do you want to say about that first night?
So no, we ate, and then I think, did we watch a movie that night? Cause I brought
Probably,
back
yeah. We had my laptop and like
laptop.
HDMI cord.
And I brought a bunch of movies. Made my bed on the little couch thing. I took my green blanket.
Yeah, there's a little like couch thing on the connected to the wall, very small. That's like for your partner or whoever is staying with you. So Isaiah stayed with me. I remember I was like, "Are you gonna stay the night?" He's like, "Yes, I'm gonna stay the night." I was like, "Okay, thank God." So he stayed and just slept there, and they came and checked on me all the time. And I remember the first two nurses I only had him for like a few hours before. I don't know if shift change was 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. 7 p.m. Like 7. Yeah, 7 to 7. So 7 p.m., 7 a.m. So those two nurses, I have it written down somewhere, but it was like Ashley and something. And I think I only talked to them like once. Like they checked on me, they got me all set up, checked on me. And then the next time was a new person. And that new person I didn't really care for. She just wasn't having like a good day, I don't think.
She actually saved her birthing process.
Yeah, she was kind of rude the first time, I felt like. But then the next time we saw her, she was like, "Oh, you're still here, girl? Like, I've been thinking about you." And she was super nice. And I was like, "Oh, I feel so bad." Because the nurse after her, I told her like, "Oh, so glad we have a new nurse." Because I did not like that old one. And afterwards, I thought Isaiah was going to be like, "Oh, yeah." And afterwards, he was like, "I can't believe you said that. That's so rude." I was like, "Oh, well, I don't know." So then, yeah. Then the next morning, which was Sunday morning,
that night, Ben got COVID.
Ben Roethlisberger got
playing
COVID.
Detroit Lions with Mason Rudolph. Next day. Okay, go ahead.
Detroit Lions, were they good or not good?
They were not good. They
were terrible. Yeah, they hadn't won any games. So we're like, oh man, we're gonna watch the Steelers game here, and it was so crazy because throughout our stay in the hospital, there were a lot of doctors and nurses who had ties to Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania. So it was really cool to see like all the Steelers fans. And I feel like they remembered us because every time they see us, like, oh yeah, you guys are the ones who like the Steelers, huh? So throughout our stay, people from the NICU came and talked to us because they told us like if the baby's born before 35 weeks, like it's an automatic NICU stay. because it's preterm, but gentle bun. But like, and just trying to get us familiar with the NICU, like that it's not a big deal, it's okay, and everything, um, and all of that. There's a hair in my eye. That's what's bothering me. So, so Dr. Gobble came and talked to us, and she was one of the main neonatal physicians, doctors, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Steelers fan." Blah blah. Talk to us, and I remember when we were playing, she's like, "What's the score?" Um, and that game ended in a tie, and I remember Isaiah was pissed, and I remember he's like, "The baby better not be born today. This is a bad day to be born on." And I was like, "Really, Isaiah? What if they're born today?" And I keep saying they because we didn't know if we were having a boy or a girl. So I'm like, "Really? Really, Isaiah?" And he's like, "Well, it is. I can't believe, like, Ben got COVID, and then Mason Rudolph freaking sucks, and then we tied with the Lions. The Lions sucked."
Deontay Johnson and Pat Fryermuth both had fumbles in overtime.
And I was just
within
like,
field goal range.
I was like, okay, well, what can we do? And he was just not in a good mood, and I kept thinking like, oh God, I hope the baby's not born today, because this is gonna suck, because he's already like not in a good mood. So we just spent that day like mostly watching like football games in the background, watching movies and stuff. They would
tell them about the breakfast.
They would come check on us. I felt like people always talk about hospital food being really bad. I felt like it was actually really good. And so like one of the nurses was like, "Here, like you can order through an app or you could call," and gave me a list of, like all the breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, what time is the cutoff time to order by. And then she was like, when you order, like you can order so much worth. So you could order like 2 entrees, 4 sides, 2 desserts, 2 drinks, like all this stuff. Um, so she's like, as long as you're ordering for you, it's free. So I was like, okay. So both Isaiah and I would get food. Like we'd order something each, and then they would drop it off, and then we'd eat. And I honestly thought the food was good. I really enjoyed the angel food cake and the brownies, because they were like
quesadillas.
They were like cake brownies. Ooh, and the quesadillas were good. And it came with like a little weird thing of sour cream, which was good. Yeah, we mostly got quesadillas, huh? Mostly got quesadillas. I didn't like the lemonade, but I think he did. It's not good. It was like sugar free, I think, and just not tasty. Um, but yeah, what else about Sunday?
Sunday.
So yeah, well, I think on Saturday they gave me my second steroid shot, and then that's when they had put me like they had to induce me, because obviously like my body was going into premature labor, so it wasn't just gonna I mean, some people it might, but for me, like my body wasn't naturally like go time. My body was like, hey, it's water broke, but we're not gonna have this baby just yet. So they had to be like, okay, so we gotta give you some Cervidil to soften and ripen your cervix. So they started me, I think, on Cervidil, the pill, and then later on they gave me Pitocin via IV, which I found out later on that the Pitocin, like, oh no, that's something else actually. What were you gonna say?
Nothing.
Oh, so yes, they gave me Pitocin, and what really sucked was that and then like midwives would change shift every 7 hours, so I got to meet some of them. Some of them I had already met at midwife appointments, but what really sucked was that like I had filled out my birth plan, and so Kai was born on a Monday, and that Tuesday was my next midwife appointment, and at that appointment I was supposed to take my birthing plan preferences. So they're like, something with the midwives is that they like to say like you kind of have to expect the unexpected. So like these are your birthing preferences. It's not your plan, because we can't plan exactly for your birth, because your baby and your body decide what's going to happen. So I had like all these birthing preferences. I really wanted to birth at the midwifery center at TMC. That didn't happen. And then like I wanted to have a wireless monitor so I could walk around and all that type of stuff. That didn't get to happen because they were out of them, and then they were doing like an electronic like Wi-Fi or something change, and so they're like, oh yeah, we only have 2, and like it's not gonna work. So that was really annoying.
They tried, but they didn't have any available.
Yeah, and then I wanted to labor in water. That didn't happen because there wasn't a tub in there, and I asked if I could change to a room that did have one, and they're like, they're all taken. I was like, okay. But they were able to get me some things. Like they got me some essential oils like peppermint, which really helped. I felt like call me. They got me a ball, a birthing ball to like bounce on. They got me a peanut ball to like use, and all of that type of stuff, which was helpful. And then like one of the midwives, I can't remember her name, but she used to be a masseuse and like she massaged me and showed Isaiah how to massage me.
You're getting way ahead. God bless.
Okay, well, what am I missing that you want to mention?
How you set up your room and stuff.
Oh yeah, so part of my birthing plan, I had like I wanted it to be like calm. I wanted there to be low lights. So I had Isaiah hung up some like affirmations for me that I had written, like positive birthing affirmations, just like calming ones to help ground me and give me strength and motivation. Like my baby and I will work together. I can handle anything for 60 seconds. My waves can't, like waves as in contractions, like my waves can't be stronger than me because they are me. Just all these like positive things that I had written and decorated. So he hung those up for me. He went on like a few Target runs for me. So he got these like twinkle lights that little clothespins on them, and he set those up. And we even had these signs that said like Autumn Catalina or Kai River, because those were our boy and girl names. So like, which one is it going to be? And all the nurses and midwives knew, like, we didn't know the sex of the baby, which I don't think many people do nowadays, or at least it didn't seem like for them, because all of them were like, oh my God, I'm so excited. That's so cool. And all of them loved it. Like anyone who went in there would comment on it. They're like, oh my God, it's so calm in here. Like, it's so beautiful. I love how you have it set up, all that type of stuff. One of the only things I didn't do, which I thought I would do, is a lot of people talk about a push playlist, like just like playing music that you'll push to. But I didn't, like, when I was trying to make one, I was like, it just felt like really unnatural to me. I was like, this is so weird to think I'm going to have music on and that's going to help me push or something. So I never made one. And, like, we didn't have anything playing in the background, which I wouldn't have mattered anyways, because I feel like I was kind of I was in La La Land anyways. But yeah, so we set up the room. Isaiah mainly set up the room for me. What else do you want to mention about Sunday? Is that that's when they started Pitocin?
Yeah, that's when they started Pitocin that night.
So yeah, I started Pitocin that night, and they would come and just like let us know everything. And I remember when they said like they were gonna put me on Pitocin, like in our childbirthing class, we talked about pros and cons and like advocating for ourselves, what to say. And I told Isaiah, like when we did that, like please advocate for me, like if I can't for some reason, if I don't. And he did a really good job with that. Like anytime it would happen, like he did exactly what we were taught in our class. So he would be like, well, what's the purpose of that? Like what are the pros and cons? What happens if we don't? Can we wait? So I'm pretty sure even when they were going to put Pitocin, both of us were like, well, what are the pros and cons? And everything that happened with Kai, it was kind of like, there's no option. Like, this is what we have to do. And I was like, okay. Because even like an IV, I didn't want an IV just because you get filled with fluid and stuff. And so I was like, well, why do I have to get an IV? And they're like, because like your baby's preterm, mom. If anything happens and you have to go into C-section, which you might, like, we need to have an IV and better just have it done. So I was like, oh my God. So everything I didn't want, like all these interventions, like had to happen. And I didn't want all these interventions because one intervention leads to another one. Like if you get one, you're more likely to just, it's like a domino effect. So they started the Pitocin. I don't feel like it was that bad at first. And they would show me on the screen like, oh, you're having a contraction. And I felt like Superwoman because I was like, I don't even feel it. Oh my God. I'm like, so amazing. What were you going to say?
Nothing.
Yeah, like I didn't feel it. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. But then when they actually did hit, like, dear God, it's not a good time. So what else happened Sunday that you want to mention?
That's about it. I mean, just watched football and hung out, ate food, waited for you to start getting induced, and then when you did, like you said, it wasn't really much. We just stayed watching TV, and I think were 49ers playing that night? I don't remember.
So I'm pretty sure that, correct me if I'm wrong, if I remember correctly, because that was Sunday, I want to say that the Pitocin like really kicked in like early morning Monday.
Well,
like 3
Sunday
in the,
night.
yeah, like 3 in the morning, 1 in the morning.
And then you didn't start feeling it until they put a
monitor on the scale. So anytime because they had to monitor him And so anytime, and they would put something on my belly, and so
I moved all over the
and
place.
he moved, yeah, just like he did even before I was in the hospital. He moved a lot, so anytime he would like move and stuff, it would mess it up. So then like the alarm would go off, and sometimes the nurse would hear it, sometimes she wouldn't. So we'd have to call her and be like, "Hi, it went off," and she's like, "Okay, be right there," and then she would adjust it. She'd leave, and like 2 minutes later, it would go off, and we'd be like, we'd call her again. She's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Hi, it went off again," and it was just like nonstop. And she's like, "This baby's just moving a lot." We're like, "Yeah, I don't know what's going on." And then eventually he just didn't like it. Like they were never in fear of him not moving, I don't think. But it was just like a lot. So they eventually said we want to do, I forgot what it's called, but like a monitor where they put it on his head. Like they put like this little sticker thing like on his scalp.
No, they go like within his skin, under his skin.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
And again, I asked like, what are the like issues with that? And they said, but they're like, oh, it's very minimal. Like, yeah. So they did that, and then that was like painful. I remember. But then when they did that, that's whenever the contractions like really started kicking in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like before that, yeah, like they would show me like, oh, you're having a contraction right now, or you just had one. And I was like, that's weird. I don't feel anything. So that was really like comforting and like confidence inducing for me, because I was like, dang, like, okay, I can do this, because I really wanted an unmedicated labor. But I remember I told the first nurse in triage, like, I wanted an unmedicated labor, and she's like, Mom, I'm just letting you know, like, because you're gonna be induced, like, you're gonna get Cervidor, you're gonna get pitocin, and those are not things to mess with. Like, it's gonna be very painful. I'm just being real with you. And I was like, well, I really don't need to hear this right now, lady.
Yeah, and she didn't want the one in your back.
Epidural.
Yeah, that one.
So yeah, so I was like, yeah, I don't want an epidural. Like, and I told her, I remember Isaiah wasn't there yet, but I remember I told her to be like, I don't want an epidural. And she's like, well, you're not gonna get one now. And she's like, but you probably will have to get one because you're gonna get pitocin, and pitocin contractions are super painful because it's not like natural hormones, it's synthetic. And I was like, oh, I know, I've read all about it. Like, I don't want it. And she's like, well, just let you know, Mama. And I was like, okay, I don't need to hear this. Like, especially if you're a new mom, like you don't want to hear all these bad things. Like you just want to be like, just let me, like, I want to be informed, but I don't want to hear your bad stories. But I was still like, when they were saying, oh, you're getting a contraction now, I was like, okay, maybe I can handle this. Like, I don't want an epidural. And I just kept trying to think, like, women before me have done this. Like, once upon a time, there was no such thing as an epidural. Granted, people died sometimes, but like, I'm like,
a lot of the time.
Yeah, like people can do this. Like, you know, if other people can do this, I can do this. I'm strong. And I just kept thinking like contractions are only 60 seconds. Like I can do anything for 60 seconds. So, but then like once they did that monitoring, I don't know if it was coincidence or what, but like once they did that, it was like 0 to 1,000. Like it was the most painful thing in the world. I understand like pain, it's like a wide spectrum and different things feel like different levels, but like I don't know, I've had migraines, which that's not the same, but I've had like my longest migraine was 12 days. I've fallen asleep in like 6-hour tattoo sessions. Like I was just like, I feel like I have a high pain tolerance. That was a pain unlike anything I can describe. It was so excruciating. I remember in the childbirthing class, one thing that the doula, her name was Ashley, one thing she mentioned was people getting like the shakes or their body just like shivering, like convulsing. And I was like, that is so weird. And we watched a video of someone giving birth, and I remember watching her just like shiver and shake like uncontrollably. And I remember that happened to me. Like I couldn't control it. It was just so, it was wild. It was the most painful thing I've ever felt in my entire life. Granted, I would literally do it like 10 trillion times again for Kai. Like I would do it over and over and over and over again if it meant like I get to have him. So totally worth it. And I just kept trying to remind myself like, okay, progress is pain. Progress is pain. Like that means like we're getting closer. Like pain has a purpose. Like it's not, that was one thing I kept trying to think of with contractions. Like I'm not just in pain from something, like this pain has a purpose. That means like I'm getting closer to meeting him. I'm getting closer to meeting him. And to backtrack a little bit, at my last midwife appointment, they had said, I forgot the name of it now, but they had said like he was he was head down, but he had been head down for a while, but he had been head down. So I thought he was like in optimal position because that's what she told me. Later on, I found out that he was actually sunny side up. So, which can mean like a lot of back labor. And girl, let me tell you, back labor is not something to mess with. And I had talked to someone else who had just had like a baby sunny side up, and she was like, I was pushing for 4 hours, and the doctors had said like if baby would have been turned not sunny side up, like I probably could have pushed her out like in a few tries, but with sunny side up, like it's extremely hard and it's extremely painful. So later on after the birth, that made me feel better because I pushed for 3 hours. So yeah, we'll get to that part. But yeah, it was extremely painful. Isaiah was like trying like all the like pain relieving stuff we had learned about. We were tired at one point.
And that's when you had the
yeah. So that's when I had the midwife. I can't remember her name, that came in, and she used to be a masseuse, and she was like massaging me, and I was like, oh my god, and she was telling Isaiah what to do and all of that. And I remember, her name was Greta?
Greta.
No. Gilda.
Or Gilda.
One of the nurses we had, Gilda. I remember
Gilda.
She came, and I thought Isaiah was massaging me, and she was massaging me, and it like hurt bad, and I was like, ow, Isaiah, and she's like, oh, sorry, mama, and I was like, oh, is you? Because I remember she was just like, because Isaiah would do it, and I'd be like, harder, yeah, like harder, push more, and so she was doing it, and it like really hurt, and I was like, ow, Isaiah, and she's like, oh, sorry. So yeah, like we were just trying all the different pain stuff. That midwife brought me peppermint oil. Like we kept the lights dim. Isaiah brought some fans for me. We had the peanut. We had the ball. He was like putting counter pressure. My comb, my body pillow, changing positions like every 30 minutes. They kept checking me, like doing cervical checks and everything to see like how far I was, what progress I was making, and I like was not progressing quickly. Like it was taking its sweet time, which of course, like I was 5 weeks early, so I wouldn't expect it to go very quickly. And throughout all that time, every midwife that would come in and check in with me, I feel like kept reminding me like, hey, so if things don't progress like a certain way, like you may have a C-section. And that was like, obviously we just want baby to be born safely, but that was like my worst nightmare. I was like, and every time they would mention, like I would just start crying because I just really did not, I mean, I didn't imagine to have him early, but I just did not imagine that happening. Like I just not imagine me having a C-section. Obviously not the end of the world, but I just didn't want that to happen. I was like, and I remember when I showed Katie, one of the midwives, my birth plan, I was like, I have this really pretty birth plan if you want to see it. Like, I know I can't do anything with it. And she was like, okay, mama, we can look at it together. And she's like, wow, this is really nice. This is really sweet. So what can, and like, that was something I really liked because she looked at it and she was like, so we obviously can't do a lot of these, but what can we offer you? Like, okay, you want essentials? We can do that. You want soft, you want to be spoken to like in a soft voice? We can do that. Let's see if we can do this, see if we can do that. And I was like, okay, thank you. And then, yeah, eventually, like, and I remember I told all the nurses and stuff, because they would ask me every shift change, like, okay, are you having a boy or girl? Is this the first baby? Blah, blah, blah. And I kept telling them, like, do not even mention epidural. Like, I don't want epidural. I want to imagine, like, it's a midwifery center. Like, it's not even an option. And they're like, okay. So I had told Gilda, like, already, like, I don't want an epidural. Please don't even offer it. Please don't mention it. Like, I don't, like, to me, I just wanted to imagine it's not an option. I need to push through. And so at a certain point, like, I was just like, I was done. I don't know. What else you want to mention about that? Anything?
That's about it.
Yeah, I was just done. And I just, what did she say?
She said, okay, mama, I need to ask you a question. She said, yes, please, give me the epidural.
So yeah, and she didn't even say epidural, but I just like knew that's what she meant, was like.
She wasn't progressing. She was just getting tired.
Yeah, and I was like, I mean, Isaiah was tired too from being out with me, but I was just like, I was physically exhausted. Like, and again, like, I don't know. I imagine it wouldn't have been that bad if like it would have slowly progressed, but it didn't. Like, I mean, what I mean by slowly progressed is that like the contractions would have like slowly progressed. They didn't. I felt literally like a 0 to like 5,000. Like, it was just black and white. So yeah, I don't know. It was just a lot just to happen like right, like all at once. So yeah, she was like, I need to ask you a question, Mama. And I'm like, yes. Okay. And she's like, okay. She's like, let me go with the anesthesiologist. And I remember they said when we took the tour, like, if you want one, say right away because um, you might ask for one and it could take hours. But I think it only took like 15 or 20 minutes for him to get there.
Yeah, he was
His
doing
name
one
was Luis Esparza. I remember. And he came in. I never.
remember because it's on the bill.
That too. I never saw his face or anything, but I remember his voice. And I just remember telling him, like, thank you so much and everything. And one thing I was scared about the epidural was I've seen the needle. I saw it in undergrad in one of my family studies classes when a doctor went in. So, and I'm afraid of needles, even though I have tons of tattoos. So I was afraid of the pain of that. Honestly, it was not painful at all. Like 10 out of 10 would recommend. Was not painful at all. And I remember he did it and you have to feel like a sensation. He's like, it might feel burning. So you have to feel it to make sure it's in the right spot. He's like, do you feel that? I'm like, yep. He's like, okay, he did it. And Isaiah's like, oh my God, that was huge. But I got it, and I just remember after that, because Gilda was like, I'm so glad you got it, because if you don't, like, you might end up needing a C-section, because you're going to run out of energy. Like, you need energy in order to be able to push. And my only concern, actually, with the epidural was I knew I wouldn't be able to use the restroom, and that mainly I wouldn't be able to eat. So you can't eat, you can't drink or anything. So that was the only thing that was like, crap, because I'm going to need energy to be able to push this baby out. So, so yeah, they're like, yeah, you can't have anything. So I just remember I drank like a lot of fluid and stuff, but I didn't eat anymore. And then because I couldn't eat, I told Isaiah, you should just eat. Isaiah didn't eat again until I could. Because he was like, well, no, you can't. It's not fair. So I put a catheter in too. And after that, I remember Gilda was like, get some rest. And if I remember correctly, like, both Isaiah and I fell asleep.
Yeah, it was like 2:30 or 3, I think.
In the morning, yeah. We finally got some sleep. Then we woke up the next morning. I was like, I remember when we woke up, it's because they came in to check on me. And so when Isaiah woke up, like, he just saw, like, nurses in the room. He's like, what happened? I'm like,
yeah, there was a bunch of them.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. So we're like, it's fine. It was like shift change or something.
No, they were monitoring him.
Oh, they were monitoring him. Okay.
Yeah, because his heart rate kept dropping after the contraction, and it should be within the contraction. It's an issue if it drops after the contraction.
Yeah, so my heart, I guess his heart rate was dropping after the contraction. And so Isaiah was really good about that, about asking questions and remembering their answers. Like, he would be like, so why is it, what's happening? What should be happening? And at one point, when he was even looking at the monitors, they were like, Dad, we got this. If anything happens that shouldn't, we will let you know. And he's like, okay, but what should I be looking for? And they're like, nothing, Dad. Wusa, just.
That's not what they said.
They basically were.
No.
What were they saying?
I was just looking, and she said, this was later on, again, jumping ahead, and she said, don't worry, if there's an issue, we'll let you know. I was like, oh, I know, I was just looking. And that was that.
Anyways, so yeah, so then they checked on me. What else do you want to say next?
They checked on you, and yeah, it was the nurse she didn't like again.
Yeah, I forgot her name. So
but
then...
the one before was the duckbill lady. Oh, no, the duckbill lady was the next
a midwife. That was Elizabeth.
No, that was the night before, huh?
Yeah. So one of the midwives, Elizabeth Ribick, I saw her once for a prenatal appointment, and it was literally like 5 minutes. And I remember that prenatal appointment because, unlike most women, I feel like, especially maybe because he was my first, but I was so excited for every prenatal appointment. I loved going. I looked forward to it. Like, I loved just like learning about like what was happening with my baby. And so that midwife, like, I remember when we had her prenatal appointment, like, I just wasn't impressed with her. And then whenever I had her in the hospital, I just felt like she was kind of cold.
Okay, look, you can go follow her right here.
Kai's gonna go call around. I'm gonna keep talking. So
but actually, she was the midwife the next day on Monday.
On Monday, yeah. So yeah, we're on Monday, November 15, 2021. So I just felt like she was kind of cold, even like in the hospital. I was just like, oh, I don't enjoy her. I hope. Because that's one thing about our Rio midwives is whenever you give birth, you don't know who is going to deliver you. It's whoever is on call. So some of them I had already seen before for midwife appointments, and a few I had never seen. But Elizabeth was one I had seen for like 5 minutes. And in the hospital, like, It might have not been this way, but I just remember her mentioning C-section, C-section, C-section. And she wasn't pushing it, but she kept, I know she wasn't, but I felt like she was like threatening me. Like she was like, it may be a C-section, maybe a C-section. And I would cry every time. And I was like, can you just give me more time? Like, please just give me more time to progress. Like, and then I found out later on that she was the one who like really advocated for me because the midwives have to check in with doctors there to like basically tell the doctors like yes or no, we need you to intervene. But it felt like she wasn't advocating for me, but I found out later on like that she did a lot of advocating for me, just saying like give me more time. So really thankful for her actually because it could have gone a different way. And neither
I think it was actually the nurse.
I think the nurse did too, but I was told like Elizabeth did a lot of advocating for me. Um so yeah, so it's back to Monday. Isaiah didn't eat anything, and I kept telling him like, just eat. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna eat. And I'm like, Isaiah, if it were the other way around, like I would eat. He's like, I know you would. I'm like, well, just eat. Like it's fine. But he didn't. And another thing he did, I swear, let's be real. I pretty much always am, but I was literally treated like a queen. Like I couldn't drink. So he would give me like ice cubes. My lips would get super chapped, so he would come give me chapstick. Like just a labor of love, y'all. Like he just really just catered to me. Like just really, really catered to me. And it just showed me like even though again, like Isaiah treats me very, very well, I'm very, very lucky. But he just like treated me so well, and I was just like, oh my God. Like this man's gonna be a damn good dad, even though I already knew that. So what else about Monday? Like they just kept monitoring me. Pitocin.
Progressing.
I wasn't progressing. One thing I was told later on, which I've told other people this and they were like, what? But one thing I was told later on was that like they gave me like the bare minimum of epidural, and like I wasn't given the option. I wasn't given, is that what you're laughing at?
Yeah,
I wasn't given the option to like increase it because I guess there's like a button you can increase it. And I was told after I gave birth, they were like, oh my God, like they never even like gave you that like continuum of it. It was like a one-time thing. You didn't get to increase it at all. I was like, girl, because by the time I actually had him, like almost 24 hours later, by the time I actually had him, I still felt a lot. Like I obviously did get an epidural, but I still felt a lot. Like I still felt what they call like the ring of fire. I still felt all of that. So it was not pain-free, which is one thing I thought, like, when I did get the epidural, I was like, oh, at least this will be pain-free. Girl, no, it was still extremely painful. I would still do it 1 billion times over and over again, but that was not pain-free. So it wasn't progressing that well. Then what else am I missing?
So we're progressing, and his heart rate kept dropping.
His heart rate kept dropping after the contraction, which is worrisome for them.
And then, yeah, so like mid-morning, or maybe mid-morning, yeah, like 10 or 11, they took her off the Pitocin. They came in, and the doctor came in and looked, and he was like, well, maybe let's give her like a break, her and baby a break for like 45 minutes or something.
Yeah, because the Pitocin, the epidural wasn't continuous, but the Pitocin was, and they would increase it. So they were like, okay, maybe this is obviously a lot. Let's like pause the Pitocin, give them a break, and see what happens when we do that.
Yeah, then so the nurse kept her off it for like 2 hours. We gotta rest again.
Yeah, because I still had contractions during that time, but it wasn't like as bad. So I was like, okay, we can rest.
Yeah, but then the nurse, from what I observed, the nurse was the one who kept it when she put her back on. It would adjust it and was like really monitoring her. Versus the midwife, I felt like she just kept.
It was Gilda, right?
No, it wasn't Gilda.
Was it
like
Ashley?
Yeah.
Okay. So that the second nurse I had that I didn't care for, when she came back, she was like really advocating for me, and she would go in and check on me, and she's like, it's okay, Mama, and she would rub me, and she's like, what do you need? So very grateful for everyone I had there. So then what was next?
It was just, we rest for a few hours, and then they started you on it again at a lower dose, and they started increasing it, and then you started progressing.
And then what happened before shift changed at 7? I'm trying to think of if we're missing anything.
Nothing. They just kept checking you. They'd come in. We were watching movies.
Yeah, we're watching Disney movies on Disney Plus.
And then they'd come in and check every now and then to see how you're progressing, and just kept monitoring you. But he was doing good.
Yeah, everything was going well, and they're like, okay, you're making progress. Oh, one thing about Elizabeth, the midwife, because I'm pretty sure she was the second to last midwife I had.
Yeah.
And she had done like 2 cervical checks. She did 1, and then the second cervical check, because she's telling the nurse, and I think the nurse like writes it down so she can chart it. So she's giving the nurse the numbers, and the nurse was like, last time it was like she was more dilated. And she's like, oh, what did I say it was? And she's like, oh, so then it's this. And Isaiah has a really good memory. So I remember he was like, yeah, last time she said this.
Oh, you tell me? Yeah, I don't feel like she didn't really either. I'm sure she knows what she's doing, but she really wasn't like paying attention. I think she was maybe like just tired and just wanted, like she wasn't progressing fast enough for her or something.
Yeah, and like, I don't want to say anything bad because I'm like, this little karma will bite me somehow. But like, that's how I felt even when I had a prenatal appointment with her. She was like, okay, so you're this far along. Like, I don't even think she measured my belly that time. Like how they measure you. I forgot what it's called, but like a fundal height. She didn't even do that. She was just like, okay, this is how much you weigh. Are you getting enough water? What do you do for work? So the next time you'll see is this time. It was literally like 5 minutes. And I remember I emailed Isaiah and was like, so that was a waste of time. And I was so disappointed because I looked forward to those appointments. Like, I liked getting information. I liked just learning more about like what was happening developmentally, always getting feedback of what I need to be doing to better prepare myself. So it was, and then like when in person, that's how I was just like, God, this is the same thing. Like, God. So even though they were like, she needs to progress, I was like, can we wait till shift change? Because I really don't want Elizabeth to deliver me because I don't even think she wants to deliver me. So yeah, so then I think at that, then we like fast forward to 7 p.m. That's shift change. So I got a new nurse.
But no, right before that, we were like pretty close, like really close. We thought it might have been on that nursing shift. But yeah, then her shift ended.
Yeah, and she was like, "Oh my God!"
She's like, I would think you could probably start pushing within half an hour.
Yeah, so often like I know you don't know, but like, do you know like how many days, how many this? And at first, someone had told me like, I think by Sunday, and then I think on Monday they were like, at the latest Tuesday, and I was like, okay, Tuesday, okay. And I just kept thinking like, let's go as far as we can, right? Because we want him to just be as far along as possible. So Monday, November 15th was when I was 34 weeks and 6 days, and 37 weeks is considered full term, but that wasn't going to happen, right? We knew that. And throughout all this, people from the NICU were visiting us to give us more information, everything, reassure us, like, baby's probably going to go to the NICU, not a huge deal, we got you. And we're like, okay. And shift change happened at 7. The nurse, her name was Liza. She came and introduced herself. And she was really cute. I was like, I thought she said her name was Elisa, so I was like, oh, is it Elisa or Eliza? And she's like, no, it's Liza, like Liza Minnelli. And I was like, oh, I love that. Like, she just was good energy. I really liked her right away. And I was like, okay. And so I got caught up to date with everything. And then the nurse was going to be Phoebe Lithgow. I had never met her, but whenever I first was looking at midwives, because I thought I was going to have to pick one out of Rio, I remember her and a few others were ones that I was wanting to choose. And that's when they told me, like, no, you're going to get a new midwife pretty much every appointment. So I never had Phoebe. And then I found out that, like, her dad is John Lithgow, which is a famous actor. So I had never met her before, but she was just, like, so calming, incredible human being. Absolutely loved her. 10 out of 10 recommend. Would love to deliver with her again. Like, she was just phenomenal. She came and introduced herself. I think I started pushing within like 30 minutes, right?
Do you want to tell them about when she introduced herself?
What, Isaiah? Go ahead.
And when she came in and said, I'm Phoebe Lithgow, and Julie said, the Phoebe Lithgow? And Liza said, wait, what? And you're all, oh, I just had looked you up on the website, and I thought I would really like you.
She was like, oh, thank you. Because I was like super embarrassed, but I knew that her dad was John Lithgow, so I was like, but I didn't want to say that, like, I don't know. I thought if I said the Phoebe Lithgow, she would get it and be like, yes, that's me. And instead she was like, So I was like, okay, never mind. And then Liza, the nurse, was all confused. It was just like, God. And then Isaiah was just, are you going to explain it? And I'm like, nah. So yeah, so then I'm pretty sure within like 30 minutes of shift change, which was at 7 p.m., I started pushing.
Would have been like 50.
50?
Yeah, 'cause
Oh, that's right. Yeah, like within less than an hour, but like 10 minutes, within 50 minutes. Isaiah is correct. I started pushing, and I don't know what this man was thinking. That he was just gonna sit back or
I
whatever.
didn't know I was gonna be an active participant in the.
Yeah, he didn't
Labor
think
efforts.
he didn't think he was he just thought he was just gonna lay back. So I remember when I remember they were like when the nurse would leave, she was like, if you feel like you're gonna like you need to push, come get us. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I feel like I need to push. And Isaiah's like, do we need to get her? So then she came. Hold on, but we're almost done. So then yeah, so then I felt like I needed to push.
What?
So they came back and everything, and it was like me, obviously laying there, Liza, the nurse, and Phoebe, the midwife. And so they're just like, all right, Dad, come on. Like, they just assumed Isaiah was going to be an active participant in this birth, as he should be. Get out of town. Shut up. So then they're like, all right, let's go. So I just remember, like, he was just, like, in the background, like, come on, Dad. And he was like, So then he, like, I remember he went up to, like, bedside, and he's just standing there, if I remember correctly. And they're like, okay, grab her leg. He's like, wait, what? They're like, I don't know. You just don't know these things if you're a first-time parent. So, and he obviously definitely was not expecting it. So I don't know what he was expecting. I was kind of just expecting he was just going to be, like, behind me, like, not seeing anything. And that was it. And instead, they're like, grab her leg, pull it up, push it, Dad, hold on to this. Like, this man thinks he put in a lot of physical effort as well.
I did. It's
But-
hard.
What? You didn't push this baby out. So yeah. So anyways, 3 hours later, in between that, I'm pushing him out. I will never forget. How long do you think I was pushing before you asked your stupid
That's
question?
about half an hour, probably.
I was probably pushing for about half an hour, right? And what I didn't really know is that you're not just like pushing the whole time, right? So like I pushed for 3 hours. I was not pushing literally for 3 hours. Like you could only push while you're having a contraction. So I felt like I would get all my energy to push like towards the end of the contraction. So I would keep pushing and be like, Mom, stop. You're done. I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, you want to push during the contraction. Like that's when all that energy momentum comes. Like once your contraction's done, like you lost your momentum. You got to wait till the next contraction. So which was good. Like obviously if I was having contractions the whole time, like that would be death. That'd be miserable. So like in between would give me a break. But it was like 30 minutes of pushing. And this man right here says, how long do you guys think this is going to take?
And that
He
was
said,
the premise
how-
of my question.
How long do you guys think this is going to take? Are you kidding me?
To make sure to kind of gauge on when I should start being worried about C-section. About how long does it...
What'd they say?
It can take like 3 to, 5 hours or something maybe.
Yeah. And he was like,
Oh,
oh.
Well, I just want to make sure I knew when to worry about.
However, my thought was like, are you serious? Boy. He's like, I'm just asking. So that happened. So yeah, I'm just pushing. And I remember Ashley the doula had talked about in our birthing class, like being in labor land. Obviously, when you don't go through these things, you just don't think about it. I really felt like I was in labor land because I just remember being like out of it. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. Then like I would push, and the moment I would stop pushing, felt like I was like unconscious. Like I was like literally like floating among the clouds. No one else would probably know what I'm talking about, but now, even though I hadn't seen it at the time, now when I think about it, there's this episode of Bluey, I forgot what it's called, where there's this episode, I think it's called Dreamland or something, but there's this episode about like when Bingo is trying to like sleep independently, I think, and so she's like in like the universe, and Chili the mom is like, I'll always be with you, and she's just like floating through the universe, I don't know, in her sleep. Like looking back, like that's what it felt like being like, I feel like in labor land. Like I was just like kind of out of it. So when they told me I pushed for 3 hours, obviously it wasn't, but like I literally felt like that was like 30 minutes. Like I felt like time flew by. I'm sure for the other participants that took forever, but I just really felt like I was in like a whole different world. And yeah, I don't know. At some point, they brought in a doctor to see like if I was gonna need assistance or something.
Yes, they didn't have to do any more.
Like any more intervention, like, you know, like forceps or anything like that. And girl, that lady went in, TMI, stretched me to the gods. And she was like, nope, she's right there. And I was like, dear God, she's trying to murder me. Is that when I was like, ow, ow, ow?
Yes.
Yeah, so she was like stretching me and I was like, ow, 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 ow. Like that ripped me out of labor line. I was like, dear God, what is this? Why do you hate me, lady? And she was like, nope, she's good. This mom's good. She'll be just fine. And I was like, oh, not anymore.
When she went ow, 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 she said, push that pain away, girl.
Yeah.
But before that, Phoebe, it was like super calm. And Phoebe would go, every so often.
Oh, yeah. Phoebe was just like calm energy. Like,
and everything in the room was just calm.
the lights were dim. We had the fairy
routine.
lights.
When the contraction was coming, we'd be watching on the monitor. You can see it coming up. So me and Liza would grab a leg.
Yeah, like they would prep me and be like, okay, Mom, come on, you got this. And
it was all calm and she'd push. And then the doctor came in and it was all chaos.
Yeah, like she literally went in and like how Isaiah is saying, like, I don't remember Liza being low voice or anything, but I just remember her being like my biggest cheerleader. Like that girl, nurse award. Like she was amazing. If I could take her to lunch, buy her Starbucks, get her some nails done, like I would do whatever because she was just amazing. And I just remember her just being like, you got this, Mom, like total like affirmations, everything. And Phoebe just being like real calm, and Isaiah just being like the best husband and dad ever, like doing everything and anything he can. And yeah, I just remember that lady went in and it was like I don't think she did, but it was like she like flicked the lights on and was like, let's go, come on, lady, push.
I'm just checking.
And so yeah, like it was a lot. And then she left the room, right?
And then she left the room.
Check his mouth, please.
I did.
Oh, then she left the room. And then I was pushing and everything. And was it Phoebe or was it someone else that eventually got... Yeah. That eventually went in there and was like what happened that I was like, hold on, can I just have a break?
Yeah, we were getting close. No, it was just you. It was me, Phoebe, Liza.
So tell me that part.
Yeah, so you're pushing, and Phoebe's like, oh, you're so close. And then she's like, probably just a few more times. And then Julie's all, okay, can I just get a break? And me and Liza both said the same, no!
I remember, yeah, because she's like, you're so close. Oh, and before that, I had asked for a mirror so I could see it. Because that was also my birth plan, was I would like to deliver him myself, like pull him out of me, which is possible. People do it. So she showed me the mirror and she was like, can you feel the head and everything? And then I couldn't really see, so I was just like, just never mind, girl. But yeah, at that point, she's like, you're super close. And yeah, I remember that because I just remember being like, huh, like in my mind, like it really hadn't been that long. So I was like, can I just take a break? And literally Isaiah and Liza at the same time in unison were like, no. And she's like, just push. And I was like, God bless, okay. So then dishes, and out he came, right?
A few more pushes? No, there's a few more. It was probably 10 or 15 minutes, and a bunch of people started gathering in the room.
Yeah, people from the NICU, nurses, the doctor. Yeah, I don't really remember all that because how would I look when I was pushing?
She's all... Because we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Stop, yeah. And I remember Phoebe, I think, would say, like, what would she say? Push out and in or something?
Out and up.
Out and up. Out and up. Out and up. And, like, I would have my eyes closed. And because in my mind, like, I was just, like, picturing, like, kind of like hypnobirthing type of stuff. Like, I was just picturing, like, seeing all my affirmations and just being, like, my baby and I are working together. My baby and I are working together. Like, what will be, will be. Like, I know my baby knows how to be born and I know how to birth them. So I just, like, kept seeing these things in my head. So when all those people came in the room, like, I didn't even see them really until, like, he came out. And then I saw all these people and I was like, whoa. And then
She pushed him out. They threw him on her chest.
And how did he come out?
Screaming. But when his head started coming out, I was like, oh, frick, that can't be good.
Why
So
was
all
that?
tiny. I was like frick.
And we
there's
had
something wrong.
seen a birthing video of how the head comes out. It's not just all at once. It's a little bit and it elongates. Isaiah forgot that part apparently because he was thinking how big were you thinking Kai's head was gonna be?
I don't know, like this big.
Yeah, he thought Kai was gonna come out with the head literally this big as a little donut, smaller than a donut. Are you serious, Isaiah? Then it came out and it was like a cone head, which is to kind of be expected. And Isaiah was like, "What the frick?" And then Kai had been in like the birth canal for so long, like he was super swollen, especially in his face. So like his face was swollen, his like lips were like Kylie Jenner. They were so super swollen. He had like super thick black. It looked like kind of curly hair. Isaiah saw him, and what were your thoughts?
Shove him back in.
Well,
Not ready.
How did you think he looked physically, appearance-wise?
Like an alien.
He was all yeesh, and I saw Kai. Mother's love. I was like, oh my God, he's perfect. But I remember, like, on my birthing plan was whenever the baby was born, if I didn't pull them out, like, I wanted Isaiah to announce, like, boy or girl. So, baby came out. I threw him on my chest, and what did you say?
I told Julie, I didn't tell Rue. I said, it's Kai.
So I was like, oh my, and pictures that I hate to this day, but I have to cherish them because they're my first photos. Because Isaiah took lots of pictures and I'm super grateful for that. I have these first pictures of him on my chest. I couldn't see his genital area, right, which tells me his sex. So I was like trying to see if he had a penis or a vagina because that would tell me. And I couldn't see. And then I just remember Isaiah came and like kind of hugged me and came to my ear and he's like, it's Kai. And I was like, oh my God. Because my feelings changed a lot during my pregnancy, but I really, towards the end, was like, I think it's a boy. Like, even though, like, I love the name Autumn Catalina, like, I'm having a Kai. Like, I'm having a boy. Like, I just know my first baby is going to be a boy. Now, to this day, I feel like however many babies we have, I think we're going to have all boys. And if we do have a girl, I think it'll be the last baby. So, but he said, it's Kai. And then I think it was Liza, the nurse, that was like, do you want to say, Dad?
Yeah, I said, it's a boy.
Yeah, because he had already told me, and he's like, yeah, it's Kai, it's a boy. And they're like, oh my God, it's a boy. And then
So they picked him up, and they were examining him in the lights for NICU and stuff.
Yeah, like the little like baby
picking
station.
Up his arms and like
doing the
messing with
Apgar
him.
test.
And so I was trying to take a picture, and the doctor...
Pick him up, bitch.
He said, do you want to take a picture? And I said, sure. So he put him next to the weight, all naked, and he was all...
So that's like the first picture I always think of Kai is that I think of Kai is like, what is it, baby? Hey, pause it. Press the pause button. Sorry, we had to change scenery because Kai was crying. I had to get ready to nurse him. So yeah, so then Isaiah took the picture and I just remember it being like super fast. I still had to push out the placenta, which this is part of the birthing video, so I'm going to say it. I wanted to get my placenta encapsulated, which means they make it into pills that you can take. There's not like a super ton of research on it. It's not like FDA approved or like recommended by like doctors or anything like that because there's not much on it. But like I wanted to get it encapsulated, and I already thought I wasn't going to get to keep my placenta anyways because one of the midwives had said like since the baby's early, like I wouldn't recommend you doing that. Also, like they may want to send it to the lab to see, like sometimes they can send the placenta to see what happened. And so yeah, they ended up keeping the placenta and sending it off, and then I later got notification that there was no reason that he went into preterm labor. It just happened, which happens sometimes. He was just meant to be here early, and that's totally fine. But yeah, then like I had read you can push out your placenta and it can take like half an hour sometimes. They didn't really even give me much time, I feel like, and they were just like, we're just gonna try and get this out. So they like try to pull it out, and they had to get someone else to do it.
That doctor again.
Yeah, it was that doctor that was all, push the pain away, girl, right? Oh yeah, because she like reached in me and got it, and she was like, there you go. And then I didn't see it, but Isaiah saw it, and he was like, yeah, you wouldn't want to you wouldn't want that. It did not look good. It looked like whenever I butcher an animal. I was like, thanks. And then I remember like when for his umbilical cord, Phoebe was actually the one that cut it because I wanted to cut it, but then when it happened, it wasn't that I was like scared or anything. I was just like, no, go ahead. Like, girl, I'm not trying to do any more work. And Isaiah didn't want to do it because he was like, oh, I don't know, it's kind of weird. So Phoebe ended up cutting it. And then they gave me one stitch. They gave me one stitch, and what did
you have strong Phoebe said, "Do you have strong vagina muscles?" And I said, "Did you tell your, what did your dad say?" And
oh, because my dad had texted me or something.
yeah, what did you say? Something like that. And then Liza was all, "That you have strong vagina muscles." Or I said, "What did you tell your dad?" And then yeah, that she had strong vagina muscles or something.
Yeah, and Liza the nurse is all, did she have strong vagina muscles? She's like, just kidding. Okay, I'm done. So yeah, they gave me one stitch. They said I had like one tiny little tear. And then I'm pretty sure at that point they were like taking Kai off to the NICU. And so Isaiah was like, do you want me to stay? Go. And I was like, no, go. Like, if you can go to the NICU, go be with Kai. Like, I'll be totally fine. Just go. Because even though like he wasn't alone and he was not gonna remember any of that, like I just wanted Isaiah to go and be with him so that he was fine. So yeah, so then Isaiah went with him in the NICU. And then it was like super fast after that. Like I remember Liza was gathering all this stuff and I was like, oh, don't worry, my husband will be back. Like he'll get all this. And she's like, no, we're going to move you to the mom and baby unit. So I was like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, we're going to move you to mom and baby unit. So she gathered everything. I don't remember how long it was, but like she gathered everything, got me ready, took me to the mom and baby unit, told Isaiah where we were, got all our stuff. And then eventually they were like, okay, do you want to go to the NICU to see him? And I was like, yes, please. And then Isaiah had already been in the NICU, saw him, and Isaiah came and he was like, I'm like just gonna warn you, like it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Like what? And he was like, it's just a lot. And I was like, okay. So they wheeled me over there because they didn't want me to walk because of the epidural, just to make sure. They wheeled me over there. We went to the NICU, and that's when I like really got to see Kai for the first time. Because like one thing about him being in the NICU, which I felt like I was robbed of, was like you get 1 hour of like the golden hour, which is like 1 hour uninterrupted, just you and baby like skin to skin, trying to nurse and just like enjoying each other's company. And I didn't get that with him because they had to take him to the NICU to monitor him. Obviously, like that is much more important than the golden hour because we need to make sure he's okay. But I didn't get that experience, so that was like kind of traumatic, I feel like. But then we got to the NICU, and like when we got there, like he had this cap on his head. He had like an IV himself. He had like tubes and stuff. And like he was like sleeping. And like that was just like, I'm very grateful Isaiah gave me that warning of like, hey, it's a lot when you see him. Because I just like saw him and like was like, holy cow. Like my tiny baby, like, are they gonna be okay and everything? Yeah. And then that first nurse that we had in the NICU, is her name Bridget?
I think that's what you said.
Bridget, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Bridget. I have it written down somewhere. Oh my god, next baby we have, I'm making sure at like 30 weeks that I have a card and a gift card and everything written out, so when we get there we can find her and give her that, because all of them, because she was so amazing. It was like, if I were to look at my pictures and look at the timestamp, I want to say it was like 2 a.m. at that point, and 2 a.m. on November 16th. She was like so chipper. She was like, hi guys, and she had like a super high pitched voice, and she was like, hi guys, oh, this is your little baby, oh my god, he's so beautiful, like look at his eyelashes, look at all that hair. And she like explained, like she was, you could tell she was like top of her class. And
it wasn't annoying high pitch though.
No, it wasn't annoying, like it, like how I'm doing. Yeah, it wasn't annoying. She was just, you know, some people, they have their jobs and you're just like, god, why do they work in that field? And then there are some people that were like, oh, you were born to do that. Like she was born to be a nurse. She was absolutely incredible. She explained everything just perfectly. She explained what all the tubes were for, the monitors. everything. She explained to us like sometimes babies can be in the NICU for a day, 2 days, a week, 10 days, 10 weeks, 10 months, and it's all just dependent. She explained everything. She was like, oh, you guys are going to be just fine. Like, go and get some rest, mama. She talked to me about their care times. Care time is whenever they take their temperature, change their diaper, feed them, burp them, all of that. So she told us like the next care time is this time. What is it called, babe? Where like his care times were at certain times, but then it would be whenever he woke up, really. I forgot the word, but it was like a certain word. Like, it'll be every 3 hours, so his next one will be at this time. But since he's like just a wee baby, if he wakes up in 1 hour and he's hungry, like we're gonna feed him. And before, like when I was first checked in, they had ad lib. There you go. And when I first checked in, like that first day, they had told me, like if your milk doesn't come in right away, especially because you're early, are you okay with donor milk? And I had to sign a form. I was like, yes, donor milk, like breast milk all the way, formula if you have to, but breast milk all the way. So we did that. And she was like, so yeah, it's ad lib, but it'll be every 3 hours. You guys can come. The next time will be this time. But if you can't make it, like, don't worry about it, mom. Like, go and get your rest while you can. And I was like, okay, no, we'll be here. We'll be here. So then, yeah, and we were asking, like, well, how long will he be here? How long is this? And then what did she say?
And you know, we don't know. It's just the world according to Kai.
The world according to Kai. And so, like, after that, like, we even have this paper of when he got home of stuff we said. And that's just something we always said was, like, it's the world according to Kai. Like, that's just our world now. So, yeah, and then I remember when we got to, like, she just reaffirmed everything. And then fast forward to, like, literally 8 hours later when we went to go visit him the next morning. It was, like, what did they say? 360 or 180? I don't know. 360. Like, he didn't have he still had the IV.
Sorry, 180.
180, whatever. He still had the IV, but he didn't have all the tubes. He didn't have the cap on his head. They cleaned him up. Like, he was just a whole different baby. He looks so, like, sweet and precious. Like, yeah. And when I saw him, like, I know everyone thinks this, but, like, I was just like, oh my God, he's an angel. Like, he's literally perfect. I just wasn't, I don't know why. I just wasn't worried. I was like, oh my God, like, he's exactly where he needs to be. He's going to be fine. And I just kept thinking, like, oh my God, like, I cannot believe, like, me, the love of my life, like, made this, like, perfect little human being. Like, we're so lucky. Like, I'm not, like, a super religious person, but I was just like, oh my God, like I, like, literally handpicked this little precious human to be our baby. Like, we're so lucky. This precious baby angel. And so, and I just, like, again, I've been with Isaiah and I have been together for 11 years, and a lot of stuff has happened throughout our relationship and stuff, but I've never really seen him cry. Like, I've heard him cry, like, when his, like, long childhood dog died. Like, I heard him cry, but I never actually saw him cry. And all of that. And then he just saw Kai, like, that next morning looking totally different, like, positive. And, like, I just, like, I'll never forget that image. Like, Isaiah just, like, literally broke down and just started, like, crying, like how I'm crying, like unconsolable, just, like, happy, like, full of joy, grateful, I could tell. And that just, like, really warmed my heart, because, I mean, I know he cares, but it just, like, showed me, like, a whole different side of him. Like, I don't know, reaffirmed, like, how reaffirmed I knew, like, God, this man's gonna be, like, such a good dad. Because you can have, I think, a really good husband, but that doesn't mean they're gonna be a good dad. And I know people say this about moms, like, oh, she was born to be a mother, but, like, Isaiah was, like, literally born to be a dad. Like, he is just the best dad ever. So to see how much he cared about Kai, like, from day one, you know, even when I was pregnant, he would always be like, can you have this? Can you have that? Like, where, like, tell me, you know, all that type of stuff. So to see him break down like that, I was just like, oh my God. And I was like, he's fine, Isaiah. And he's like, I know. So we would do all our care. We would go in there and try and do care times as much as we can. I'm trying to end this because it's already, like, time for Kai to nurse and everything. But, like, we would just go visit him in the NICU.
And who you were around in your wheelchair?
Isaiah would wheel me around in my wheelchair, and then finally I was like able to be fine. He went home and like showered and stuff. While he was gone, like I felt good enough to shower on my own, and I took a shower. I like braided my hair and everything. We would go visit Kai. I saw like lactation counselor. We saw a physical therapist, speech therapist, all the people just caring about Kai. And I really just felt like it's not ideal for a lot of people. It's not ideal for a baby to be born early, but I really felt like personally, like I'm so grateful for that. Like we had like such a good birthing experience. I feel like when I think back on his birth, like I feel nothing but like happy thoughts. I know for Isaiah it was like really scary, but personally for me, like it felt really good. Like I was never actually scared of like anything bad happening. Like my worst thing that I would thought happened would be having a C-section, which in the grand scheme of things is someone having a baby. Like that's not the worst thing that could happen. Like the worst thing is losing your baby or you dying too, or both of those things. So, but all in all, like I feel like we had a really good birthing experience. I would do it all over again. Epidural, no epidural, whatever I had to do, like I would do it all over again for Kai. And we are so lucky. And today he's 1 year old today.
1 year old.
So he was born November 15, 2021 at 11:10.
Oh yeah, 11:10.
11:10 p.m. I always want to say 11:50. I don't know why. 11:10 p.m.
Because it was 50 minutes before.
Yeah, 50 minutes shy. You gonna eat the grass? So yeah, today's his birthday. He's a year old. We've been wanting to make this video for a very long time.
Well, we have a draft of it.
We have several drafts of it. Just never gotten to finish it, and wanted to film it this weekend, and I was like, okay, let's finally make it. So yeah, so we finally got to make this video. And he's a year old, and I cannot wait to see all the things that he accomplishes. And together today, his birthday, we went to breakfast at Baja Cafe and had breakfast, and Kai had scrambled egg and hash brown and an orange and water. We drove around. He had a nap. We don't usually drive around for naps, but he napped in the car, so we drove around and visited some little free libraries and dropped off books. We came home. He played. We started making this video. I'm going to nurse him now, and he'll probably take a nap. And then later on, he's going to have like his favorite foods today. So he'll have some pinto beans, and he'll have yellowtail. He'll have banana. We're going to sing a happy birthday. He'll have either some cake. He had a birthday party here in Tucson last weekend. So he either has some of that cake or the cupcakes that I made left over from that party. Attempt to blow out a birthday candle. Yeah. And, oh my God, I forgot we had these flowers.
Don't mind the weeds.
It's okay. We have a baby and we live life. We have a house and a yard that we live in. It's fine. So, that was our birth story. Just super grateful to be this little boy's mama. And 10 out of 10 would recommend. I just love this little boy so much. And that's it. I don't know if you want to mention anything else.
Nope, that's it. I guess we'll have to do a NICU video next.
Yeah. So that's it. Say bye.